My name is Cole, aka Trans Spirit Indigo. I am a soul having a human experience, and I'm transgender. I want to thank everybody who has subscribed, liked, and commented on the channel. I really appreciate you helping me to grow. And I would love it if you haven't yet to subscribe and make sure to hit that bell notification so you know every time that a new video comes out. I am super excited to talk about this. What triggered your spiritual awakening? So I did what a lot of people do, and I went on YouTube and I typed in what triggered your spiritual awakening. And there were a lot of different interesting videos where people talked about their personal stories and how their spiritual awakening was triggered. And also helpful videos talking about how to deal with spiritual awakenings, common things that trigger spiritual awakenings. So a lot of great videos out there. So I felt inspired to share a little bit about what triggered my spiritual awakening. But also, I'm curious to know what triggered your spiritual awakening. Not everybody's going to make a video about it, but we can still talk about it, right? Yes, luckily there is no code in the universal law that says that we have to make a video to talk about our spiritual awakening. But I would love to hear what yours has been like. Please make sure to comment below and let's discuss, because this is a very interesting topic. It can happen in so many different ways, and sometimes people are even aware of what it is and then seek further information about it. Maybe they hear about spiritual awakenings from a friend or a blog that they read. For me personally, I had no idea what it was until I was in it. Okay, so to sum up this story in under 10 minutes, how do I do this? Okay, overall, it was a slow trickle for me, and then what my partner likes to call it, a rapid fire awakening, which I definitely agree with. Overall, I'd say that the awakening process for me started in later 2010, going into 2011. I was still a very troubled, so to say, alcoholic, and didn't stop drinking alcohol destructively until the summer of 2011. Now, as many of you know, when I quit abusing alcohol, the awakening took off a lot faster. The vibration, my vibrational frequency, rose when I quit drinking, and that it's going to happen to anybody, in my personal opinion. Alcohol is said to be one of the easiest ways to lower your vibrational frequency, and it's fine to have a drink every now and then, I think, but like I said, I was a destructive alcoholic who drank heavily. So when I quit drinking in 2011, it was still a slow trickle, but it definitely helped. But in 2010, the later parts of it, what really started it for me was the food industry, the corruption in the food industry. Okay, so a little thing about me that you might not know is that for most of my 20s, I worked as a cook in different types of kitchens. So I was very familiar with the food industry, and I had worked in fine dining, upscale casual, mom and pop, pubs, diners, fast food, you name it. I had seen just about every side of the restaurant industry, and what I noticed was the actual food itself, and how a lot of it was not really food. Mainly the items that weren't really food was the fast food. But I began to notice the difference between using fresh whole foods and the processed foods. But in 2010, I started watching a program on TV that had Chef Jamie Oliver on it. And he was talking about processed foods in the schools. And it got me to thinking, why would they do that? Why would they make food that causes illness? Well, I had quite the rabbit hole to go down, right? So after I watched that show with him, I started looking up stuff about the food industry. Monsanto. Yeah. I started to educate myself on GMOs and organic foods, organic plant-based eating. I started to read more and more about that. I hadn't even gotten into YouTube videos yet. This was pretty much by now, this is 2010, so going into 2011. So I started to become interested about this. By that next summer, I quit drinking. And I started to focus on my music. I was still working through a lot, working through a relationship that was ending, this and that. So it really, truly was a slow trickle. After the food, I don't even know exactly how it happened, but I discovered what people call conspiracy theories, which I would say most of them are just truths. Yep, I got into conspiracy theories, and a lot of them are dark. So this is something I wanted to point out, is that I discovered along my spiritual path, I discovered a lot of the darkness and the corruption going on this planet before I discovered any of the light. And I'm thankful for that. And I do believe that that's part of the spiritual awakening, for sure, is its duality, and it's alchemizing your darkness into light and going into those shadows, doing shadow work, healing your inner child, dealing with your shadows, demons, so to say, whatever you want to call them. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I had no clue what a spiritual awakening was. Like, I had seen certain things and I thought, oh, that's that spiritual kind of stuff. It didn't really call to me as much at first when I first quit drinking. However, what did call to me, other than these conspiracy theories I thought that were interesting, even though they were terrifying, what called to me were psychic mediums and angels, and eventually reincarnation. I had a few psychics tell me in between, well, years ago I went to one, but in between the years of 13 and 15, I had a few different psychics talk to me about a past life that I had, and they were all separate and said the same thing. And I know that I had mentioned this on an old video that I did, one of my favorite ones about being transgender and reincarnation, if you want to check that out. But anyway, I digress. Reincarnation, all these subjects started like breadcrumbs leading me along my path. And I'd say the biggest kicker for me was a car accident, a scooter accident. Now, before I forget, I know I mentioned earlier that there are a lot of things that can spark a spiritual awakening, and I didn't really mention those things, but one of them can be a major life-threatening accident or almost losing your life. I had such an immense amount of gratitude after that accident that I'm convinced, I mean, I just know that it raised my frequency, my overall energetic frequency. But I mean, some people can seek out the spiritual awakening. They've heard of it. They want to know more about it. Some people have just felt called to meditate, and it will just hit you like Kundalini awakening right there. I mean, in all reality, I suppose somebody could just be walking down the street and have a shift in perspective. I'm sure it could happen really in any way, but these are some typical ways. Let's see. Is there anything else that comes to mind? Okay, so I talked about traumatic accidents that may occur. I talked about meditation. Yeah, I mean, that's why I would love to hear your comments below, because I'm sure there's many other ways, and it's very interesting. So I'd love to hear it. And I mean, in all reality, I guess it happened around the end of the Mayan calendar, but my awakening was technically triggered by my curiosity of the corruption in the food industry. Technically. But I would say overall, the rapid fire awakening I spoke about earlier started with an accident where a person ran a red light in a van and hit me while I was on a scooter. I am very, very thankful and blessed to still be here. I was on bed rest for 3 months. I had broken bones, the whole bit. I was in a wheelchair. And although a lot of people would go into a negative space and say, oh, what am I going to do, this and that, because I really didn't know what I was going to do. You know, I was working as a musician in different bars at the time, and I didn't have like a full backup plan of how I was going to handle life. But instead of getting scared and freaking out about it, I was just in this immense amount of gratitude because I was alive. Because that raised my frequency. That's when a lot of interesting, more clairvoyant things started to happen for me. I started to experience clairaudio briefly when I was having a difficult decision choosing whether or not I should travel not long after the accident. I felt called to travel, which I'm glad I did, because I ended up meeting my twin flame 1,500 miles away when I felt called to travel. And I'll share this with you. I actually did hear my deceased, one of my close friends who had passed away a few years prior. Actually, it was the year prior, because this was 2015, okay? This is like the end of the summer in 2015. I heard his voice audibly tell me to go to California, and it spooked me at first because, again, I didn't know what a spiritual awakening was. I didn't realize that I am clairvoyant. None of it, okay. And I heard him say go to California, and I did, and all this amazing stuff happened for me. And I went on this amazing journey that was life changing. And I'd already been going out to California because of a friend and working on music. So, I mean, I did have somewhere to go. I didn't just go there. Like, I had a friend to go stay with and everything. But I mean, if you feel called to do something, do it. I'm not saying that you have to have a friend to just up on a whim go and travel someplace. Anyway, I digress. So the 2015, the Rapid Awakening, I go out to California, I meet my twin flame, and that too was a huge thing for me. And I've read that before, that when you meet your twin flame, that a lot of times, especially if like you're not fully awake, you will quickly start to wake up. My twin flame had already gone through an awakening process of her own, and she had woken up to a lot of these things as a teenager, and we're well past being teenagers. So she was the one who actually told me, after I was describing to her my car and how I didn't have a car for a while, and people kept telling me, get rid of your scooter, get a car. And I kept saying to them, no, I'll get a car when it's ready. I'm not ready yet. I know it's coming. I just don't know when. I don't know when I'm going to do it. And because I didn't have money for a car at the time. And the accident helped me to be able to do that, you know? And it's like, that's why I was explaining to her. It's like, I knew that I was going to be able to have a car. So I just believed I was going to have a car and everything was going to be okay. And I kept telling people to leave me alone and stop telling me to go save up money for a car. And she goes, well, you were using the law of attraction. And I said, the law of what? And that's when she explained the law of attraction to me. She was explaining to me that I had been using the law of attraction with the whole car scenario. It's like, I knew, like I said, I knew I was going to have a car soon. Didn't really know how it was going to happen because I didn't have significant amount of funds saved up at the time. So yeah, that really opened my mind. And then learning about indigo children, then the third eye. Let's see, then what else? Then what came? The movie The Secret. And then there was learning that we're all made of energy, that everything is energy. I learned about vibrational frequencies. And I can't forget, I got into plant-based eating. I became a vegetarian in, I think it was February of 2017? No, 16. Holy Toledo. It was February of 2016 that I became vegetarian. And it was by summer of 18, I believe, I became vegan. I recently started eating vegetarian again, honestly out of stress. When the pandemic hit, I was out in LA and I was living in this artist residency at the time. I'm a musician, and I was thankful to be around people and make music at the time, but it was so stressful, right? We've all been stressed, that I started to kind of like slack with my eating, because I mean it's all belief, because you know, not everybody believes dairy is bad. But I do, and I don't want to eat dairy, and I started eating a bunch of cheese pizzas again. And I was like, oh, I gotta stop this. So I've been going back to my plant-based now. But that's a huge part of the awakening for me, has been changing my diet up and eating as many fruits, vegetables, nuts, like beans, things like that. It's completely changed my life, and drinking a lot of water. I try to drink alkaline water as much as possible. I like putting apple cider vinegar in my water, lemon in my water, Himalayan pink salt in my water. So changing my diet, changing all that around. Exercise, of course, always helps, but it's mind, body, and soul, right? And I know as a trans person, I've often have struggled with the body part, and it's honestly something I'm currently working on. Okay, I know I said I'd keep this at 10 minutes. It's going on, so I'm going to have to wrap it up here soon, but I want to get this all in. It was so exciting and so important to me. So that's just kind of like my path there. And I told you I became vegan in 2018. And I started studying a lot of different teachers. And I got more into YouTube, honestly, than I did reading books. I feel like I should read more. It's important for the brain. But I got into a lot of different teachers on YouTube that have helped me out tremendously. And I'm sure they do you as well. And it's like I started to realize that there's so many different subjects that all intertwine. I mean, there's aliens, there's quantum physics, there's angels, there's tarot, crystals, like all of this metaphysical stuff quantum physics, science, it's all wrapped in together, and I've just loved every part of it. There were a couple things, as I said, that have triggered my awakening. Quite a few, really, but what I equate them to is finding out about the corruption in the food industry, the government, everything, the powers that be, if you want to call it that, and also that major accident that woke me up and made me realize, whoa, how precious is life, right? And to not take life for granted. And I believe my third eye really woke up then. I remember sitting outside in the wheelchair after the accident and the sun coming down on me. It was summertime, and just feeling so much gratitude. It just felt like I was shining, off light. And I really do think that's when it was like, and Kundalini happened, and it was boop from there. And it does seem to accelerate. Like the more conscious layers are peeled, the faster time seems to feel like it accelerates. And yeah, so I want to know what triggered your awakening. Please make sure to let me know. Leave it down there. Everybody, thank you so much for dropping by. I'm excited to make more videos. I'd like to make some that are spiritually based for my trans friends, or anyone that wants to learn more about that. For now, I'm going to go enjoy the rest of this evening, and wherever you're at, morning, noon, night, I hope you enjoy. Much love and much light, everybody.